He's got thoughts on change to the 4-2-5 formation defensively. Where do you think Demario McCall is going to be playing in the secondary?
Well, I'll just throw in my two thoughts, and I don't have a lot to say about either of those things. I don't look at 4-2-5 as being their, quote, base defense. I think 4-2-5 is something that they've been playing with this spring. One, because Dallas Gant's not there, where if he was there, maybe they'd be running more 4-3. And also Mitchell Melton is out. So the number of linebackers you have is down. So you don't necessarily need to run a 4-3 to get everybody reps. You can get everybody reps with a 4-2-5. And you've got extra safeties and extra DBs perhaps that you want to get more reps to. So I think it's more a function of getting more people their feet wet on the field at a position where you got more guys is kind of how I look at it. I think they'll do whatever they think is best for the opponent, the down the distance, the score, 4-3 or 4-2-5. So I don't worry too much about philosophically, as long as you're getting stops, that's all that matters. So if they get into the season and teams are still moving the ball and putting up 300 yards passing against them as they did last year, then they're going to have to experiment, come up with some other ideas. But I don't think it's going to be something that it's now a 4-2-5 defense. And the thing on McCall, I just look at that as a lark. I can't honestly believe that they're going to play him any meaningful plays on defense during the season. I don't buy that, not for 1 minute, because they don't substitute a whole lot to begin with. And what is he at worst? 5th, 6th, 7th on the depth chart at cornerback. Tyreek Johnson supposedly has made a little bit of a run here this spring. Ryan Watts has looked good. LeJon Cavazos. And then you've got Cam Brown and Sevyn Banks, who haven't played, obviously, or because of the injury, or Banks tried to, and I guess got hurt or whatever. But so he's no higher than 6th. I mean, he's going to play. So, no, I don't see much of a role for him on defense unless the score is 45-0.
Yeah, and where would he be? I think he's probably a nickel in the slot somewhere, and he'd be behind at least 3 other guys. I know Ryan Day has said he's been impressive, but that might be words of encouragement as much as anything. It just, you don't see something like this late, but more power to him for trying something. And if it sticks, that's great. I still think he would have been an outstanding running back in the MAC. Just, running through those defenses. In terms of the Ohio State 4-2-5, we keep hearing about the inside linebackers. We don't really hear much about who is repping at Sam. And Kayvon Pope was there last year as a backup. Craig Young was there last year as a backup. Kayvon Pope has been mentioned as an inside linebacker. Craig Young has been playing some safety and some linebacker in that hybrid role. So I think you're going to see more of it. I don't know. You may not see much of it in the spring because the spring game and what they actually do may differ. But I think, like Steve said, depending on opponent, depending on down distance, whatever, you have to play it. You can't. No more 4-4, and they have enough secondary options to try to figure out what to do with the 4-2-5. They've got Craig Young, who they like, who's dropped some weight so he can play safety, can come up and handle the run, do some blitzing, and they've got some guys behind him. Court Williams will be in that mix this summer when he returns. So I think there's something to it, but they also have their linebackers are versatile enough to you can send somebody outside if you want, like Kayvon Pope has done it. I think Cody Simon, sophomore, could do it. Reed Carrico is athletic enough to play any of the 3, but I would be disappointed in the progress if there isn't more of the hybrid Michigan type defense that Greg Madison and Al Washington brought with that hybrid defender. That's where the game is moving, and Craig Young being that guy who can fill that role, who played linebacker last year, but came to Ohio State as a 6'3", 6'4", 200-pound guy, basketball player, wide receiver, 700, 800 yards receiving as a senior, 20 points a game in basketball. I think he ran a 10.7 100 meter. And now this is your hybrid guy. And so use him. and they're recruiting that guy, and they brought another one in Jalen Johnson in the 2021 class. So if you're recruiting these guys, it's time to put that defense in and get something out of it and create some havoc. And basketball has moved to positionless, basketball quite a bit on offense. I think you're going to see some of that on defense. You're seeing some of it on offense as well. So you got to have guys who can do many things. And I think going that 4-2-5 is one way to make it happen because Pete Werner is gone.
Yeah, I think a lot of the good points have already been hit by Tony and Steve, so I won't go long here. But don't get caught up in what the number is. I mean, whether or not it's 4-2-5 or 4-3. I mean, because the truth of the matter is whatever that. If it's a fifth defensive back or if it's a linebacker or whatever, it's about who is that guy? Who is that Craig Young? Is that a Court Williams? I mean, I don't think it's a situation of where I would allow myself to get too caught up in what the nomenclature is, because it's just a matter of getting your best 11 out there in a system that is going to work for you and the defense that you're hoping to run. Tony talks about Al Washington and Greg Madison bringing a Michigan type of defense in terms of some schematic things. Just hope they don't bring a Michigan defense in terms of some of the outputs that we've seen, especially under what Don Brown was selling up there. But I wouldn't allow myself to get too bound up by it, and let's just bury the 4-4 for now until eternity, because pretty much my view of the 4-4 was not a great one, and I think that the stats would back that up.
Anthony Manzano representing the Miami Hurricanes. I was looking through the live chat. I found just so many different fan bases represented, more so than Ohio State in this thing. So you guys have to field questions from all over the nation here. We've got Anthony with, I'm wondering, as a Hurricane fan, when was the last time a true freshman quarterback started the first game of the season and then played all 3 years at Ohio State? Terrell Pryor, game 3, correct? Didn't start game 1. Yeah, he didn't start
the first game.
Came in against USC late and then started week 3. That's the closest I can come up with.
It's in 78.
And Braxton Miller didn't start the first game in 2011 either.
I actually created a list on something else from like a month or two ago on Excel, and I have all the game 1 starters listed here. You have to go, I mean, at least going back to 71, because that's as far as I wanted to go on this project. And Art was the only one that I came up with. I mean, yeah, you've had redshirt freshmen, you've had, Pryor in game 3 or whatnot, but no, they came close a couple of times, but 78 is the last time it happened.
There you go, Anthony. Arch Leachster, 78 against Penn State. 19-0, 5 interceptions, 21 on the season, but finished in the top 5 in the Heisman, I believe, then in 79, 80, and 81.
Yeah. Pryor and Miller are the only true freshmen, I think, that have played multiple games at quarterback for Ohio State since then, I think. And if McCord doesn't play this year, it wouldn't count this year. These guys, they're listed as redshirt freshmen on the roster, although last year didn't count. It's just all semantics thing. The guys who played appreciable amount of time, they're listing them as sophomores who were first-year players, although we know in the back of our mind they have an extra year at the end if they want it. And the same thing would apply. All of the quarterbacks have 4 years of eligibility remaining. It's just, how do you want to handle it and look at it from a semantic standpoint?